Bob temporarily borrowed Kevin's tie, hung it on the fire alarm, and burnt it. After that, the guy with the hair pulled Kevin out as his heart and cannon fodder. The CIA continuously opened fire on them. Because they're the main characters, the two are quite confident, taking down the federal agents without taking a single bullet. I feel like the CIA is too numerous and too aggressive. Taking advantage of the burning tie to trigger the general fire alarm, Bob pulled out a stun grenade that blinded the CIA. Then he pulled Kevin and jumped down from the 40th floor of the building. Hello everyone. Today I will introduce to you a funny action movie about a duo in difficult situations. This comedy duo will work together to investigate a case related to the security of the entire United States. The film begins in 1996. At that time, our two main characters were just high school students preparing to graduate. Kevin was an excellent student, nicknamed the Golden Jet, the god of basketball, the destroyer of calculations, etc., and was being honored in front of the whole school and expressing his feelings. Then a group of bullies went to the public bathroom, grabbed a student weighing 150 kilograms, dragged him into the hall, and threw him in naked to mock his chubby body and make fun of him in front of the whole school. Witnessing this scene, the other students burst into laughter. Only Kevin and his girlfriend Maggie showed sympathy for Bob. Kevin immediately put on his jacket so that it could cover him up, then led them out of the hall amid the malicious and helpless laughter of the exhausted bullies. Kevin was considered the most promising person in school, but 20 years later, Kevin no longer has the glory of his high school years. Currently, he is working as an accountant but does not like this job much. He was also overtaken by the assistant who entered later and was promoted first. This high school love story blossomed after they graduated from college. He married Maggie. She is currently working as a lawyer and is extremely successful in her career. But the marriage is in trouble because Maggie wants to have children and Kevin is busy with his business career, so he doesn't have the mindset to nurture this family. So Maggie suggested that the two of them go see a doctor to save their marriage, but Kevin didn't really want to go. That day, Kevin suddenly received a friend request on Facebook. It was none other than his old friend, Bob. Bob enthusiastically texted Kevin to invite him out to drink to reminisce about old times. So he quickly agreed. Then he used it as an excuse to refuse to see the marriage counselor. At a restaurant, Kevin was extremely surprised to see the real person. His friend, Bob, had now successfully gone through puberty and is transformed into a tall, muscular guy with strong muscles. It's actually not difficult to get that kind of body. Just breathe in the air and do a few basic exercises. They talked happily and also discussed their current situations. Based on what Bob said, Kevin couldn't help but notice his friend getting into a confrontation with another tall guy. A group of young men were very confident and intended to bully the two old friends who had just reunited. But just as they started to act tough, Bob quickly subdued them. They fell to the ground without even realizing what had just happened. Excited by Bob's impressive performance against those young men, Kevin happily invited his friend to continue hanging out. They returned to high school and looked back at the old scene. There was an area displaying photos and childhood memories of the two. Actually, it was mostly Kevin's photos, because back then he was incredibly famous. At this moment, Bob wanted Kevin to do the backflip that the students all admired. Seeing how enthusiastic Bob was, Kevin did it once for fun. But who would have thought that after he only got 2/3 of the way through the flip, Kevin's face landed first? Anyway, I'm old now, like my demanding boss. Even though I'm grown up, I still like to play the games of young people. I almost lost a leg. When he got home, Kevin invited his friend in for coffee. His enthusiastic friend also came in, using the excuse of asking Kevin to help resolve a certain security issue on an internal website. However, when Kevin accessed that page, the information displayed looked like an international auction floor. There was also an auction period that was about to end the next day. Before he could ask what this site was, the laptop was infected by a virus. Moreover, the beer bottle was squeezed and spilled on it, so the problem hasn't been resolved yet. The day was about to end, so Bob crashed and continued to sleep overnight. He even conveniently borrowed Kevin's pajamas. He looked no different than a coconut tree. Kevin's eyes were on the tragedy on the living room sofa, sleeping through countless things, along with the sound of his incessant snoring. Suddenly, the front door burst open. Agents of the Central Intelligence Agency, led by Agent Harris, came to the house to try and arrest Bob. But inside, the situation was completely different from what Kevin expected. They informed Kevin that he was wanted for murder and treason. Currently, he's holding secret documents from countries and preparing to sell them to the enemy. Not giving up, Harris suspected Bob would contact Kevin and sent agents to follow him while he worked. Bob easily distracted these henchmen. Then he snuck into the room of his childhood friend from high school, even though they had just fought together. After booking an Uber, Bob temporarily borrowed Kevin's wallet and put it on the left indicator. Through that series of strange actions, Kevin still hesitated to confess.
He shouted to inform the CIA agents that he was there because he wanted to get out of this. But it wasn't that easy. Bob dragged Kevin outside, told him to pretend to be a hostage, and fought off the agents. Because they're the main characters, the CIA's bullets couldn't hit them. Unintentionally, Kevin accidentally took out a government employee, then grabbed another guy with a gun. So in the eyes of the Central Intelligence Agency, Kevin became her accomplice. The CIA was too numerous and aggressive. It seemed like there was no way out. At that moment, the fire alarm went off and water sprayed all over the room. Bob stunned the agents with a stun grenade, then hugged Kevin and jumped from the 40th floor. It was all part of Bob's plan. They fell down a garbage chute, landed safely in a car, and escaped. At this time, Kevin panicked, still screaming to leave. Bob then explained that he was also a CIA employee before. After a criminal nicknamed the Buyer stole the codes for an American spy satellite, Bob and his partner Phil followed the trail to an apartment. Here, Phil was blown up and killed, while Bob was accused of killing his comrade and betraying his country. Bob wants Kevin to use his accounting skills to find out the whereabouts of the person who bought the password. While talking, an assassin tried to run them off the road, and Kevin rushed in to help. Who would have thought that his friend jumped into the assassin's car and drove away in surprise? Still not forgetting the doctor's appointment with his wife, Kevin went to the consulting room right away, but as soon as he got out of the car, he was dragged into a CIA vehicle. Harris said the opposite words about Bob. She claimed it was Bob who was the mastermind and that he had killed his colleague. Then she asked Kevin to find the person who bought the password to sell. She gave Kevin a tracking device that would let them know Bob's location when he came to him. The negotiation ended, and Kevin quickly went into the doctor's consultation room. But this doctor was an impersonator, and his wife believed everything she said. Kevin couldn't stand this anymore. He told his wife to go home first while he stayed to talk to Bob. Kevin then saw the real doctor tied up behind the door. Kevin picked up the device and was about to press it, but Bob persuaded him that he needed to know the transaction location to prevent that crime. Because money is transmitted from abroad, only international banking offices can trace it. He just needs to access the transaction code of that purchasing account. But the person who can do this is the boy who bullied him in high school. The bully agreed to help. They give them the address and apologize for their behavior the other day. But it's all just a show. He still acts like a jerk. And the big guy still hasn't overcome the trauma of being bullied. He offers no resistance at all and is just left alone. When Kevin took the transaction code down to the lobby, Bob apologized for his previous reaction. But then Kevin apologized again. Because Agent Harris had used Maggie to threaten him earlier, he informed the CIA that Bob was here. As a result, Bob was arrested and interrogated. Harris used a torture device on Bob, and Kevin is still there, but he hasn't been released yet. Hearing about his friend's pain, Kevin decided to rescue Bob. The two of them worked together extremely well to overcome the CIA agents, then jumped in a car and left. Based on the transaction code that the two people obtained, it is the longitude and latitude that indicate the trading location is Boston, so the two of them went to steal a plane. Kevin used his accounting skills to distract the manager. They managed to get the plane to the runway. While flying, suddenly the screen displayed a warning that fuel was low. The plane crashed into the water. When near death, Kevin realized that the thing he regrets most is not having a child with Maggie. However, the dangerous scene was just a pretense. Bob intentionally helped Kevin regain awareness about his marriage. To avoid being tracked by the CIA, he sold the plane to some Vietnamese junkyards. They went there and Bob found the transaction location. Later, Kevin saw Agent Harris also coming there. He thought she was there to bust them, so he quickly called Bob, but the phone couldn't connect, so he also ran down to the basement. He just saw Bob standing next to a group of people on the receiving end. Before Kevin could finish his sentence, Bob was shot and fell behind a door. The other party saw that their partner was shot and immediately believed Bob was the traitor, so they carried out the transaction. But unexpectedly, Phil, who was supposedly dead, came out. The two identified themselves as the peddlers. As for the buyer, he didn't have the patience to listen to the two of them talking nonsense. He demanded the goods from both of them. At that moment, Agent Harris and her team suddenly attacked. Amid the hail of bullets from both sides, Kevin bravely ran out to get the codex and ran away. The buyer chased him and tried to run him over. Kevin ran to the bridge when he got caught between Bob and Phil. Both of them claimed they were good guys, just pretending to be double spies. Then Bob and Phil rushed at each other, knocking the gun out. Kevin quickly picked it up, but didn't know who to trust or who to shoot. He decided to take a chance, closed his eyes, and shot, leaving it to fate. As a result, the bullet went straight into Bob's butt. Phil took the opportunity to counterattack and knocked Bob out.
He pointed the gun at Kevin and started talking nonsense. I am the peddler. Do you see how brilliant my plan is? I was the one who set up my own death to blame her. Facing death, Kevin used all his strength to flip himself upside down, but he still ended up on the ground. Phil was stunned by the performance. He suddenly realized he had been tricked. Bob came from behind and used a neck strike to finish Phil. Every word Phil said was recorded. The two of them successfully eliminated the criminal that threatened this country. Then the two put on shiny clothes and took a helicopter to their high school reunion. They looked so cool. Here, Calvin makes up with Maggie. Their family returned to peace again. Bob overcame his trauma from being laughed at for his body. He went up on stage, took off his clothes to show his strong body, then flexed and posed. The film ends as Calvin says goodbye to his wife and unborn child to go to the CIA for his first day of work. Bob was outside the door early to pick up his friend and give him a gift for his first day of work. It was Calvin's jacket from high school, which he had given to Bob to cover him at the beginning of the movie. The movie ends here. We can learn some of the following lessons. Suddenly, my friends ask about me after many years. If you're far away, they're definitely asking for help from you. Black people are always getting screwed over and bullied. CIA agents are all scoundrels. If you are the main character, just proudly hold the gun and shoot. Don't worry about killing people. Sooner or later, you will be killed. And that's the end of the movie. If you like this movie, leave a like and a comment below. Goodbye and see you again in the next recaps.